Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're talking about something I think a lot of us have been through. How do you survive a job that you just can't leave right now? But here's the thing. The answer isn't just about working harder or putting your head down. It's about understanding the hidden game that's being played all around you.
I mean, does this sound familiar? You do everything you're supposed to do. You work hard, you're visible, you speak up in meetings, but somehow you're not getting the results you expect. It really feels like there's a whole other set of rules that no one ever told you about, operating just under the surface.
So, to try and figure this out, we're going to dive into some really sharp insights from the YouTube channel Donald versus the System. We're going to use their breakdown of corporate life to understand the hidden logic of the modern workplace. And maybe, just maybe, learn the real rules of the game. Okay, so let's start decoding this thing. The first and maybe most important rule you have to get is that the workplace system, it's not actually designed to be fair or logical. Its number one goal is to preserve itself. And a lot of the time, it uses our own feelings, stress, frustration, as tools to keep everything under control. Okay, check out this first scenario from the source. Your entire team is just buried, totally underwater with work. Then a new, completely contradictory strategy gets rolled out. It makes zero sense, but nobody says a word. Now, the really interesting part is that question on the screen. What is overwhelm functioning as here? And here's the mind bender. That feeling of being overwhelmed, it isn't just a side effect of a busy company. In this kind of system, it's a feature. It's a really powerful, passive way to maintain control. Think about it. When everyone is just exhausted trying to keep up, who has the mental energy to think critically or talk to their colleagues and challenge a bad idea? Nobody. And so the system just keeps chugging along.
All right, now for a classic we've all seen before. A project fails, bug time. And when you try to figure out why, you get sent on this endless loop of finger pointing, right? Engineering blames sales, sales blames marketing. In the end, your boss just hits you with that line, let's focus forward. So what or who is really being protected here?
It's not protecting a person. It's protecting the system from being held accountable. By creating this circle of blame where no single person is truly responsible, the overall structure gets to stay exactly the same. And phrases like focus forward, that's not about finding solutions. It's a very clever tool designed to shut down any questions that might expose a deep flaw in how things are actually run. So this leads us right into another huge misconception, what we can call the myth of visible effort. We're always told that the person who works the hardest and speaks the loudest is the one who's going to win. But in a system that's designed to protect itself, that kind of visibility can actually make you a target. This example is just perfect. You've got Sam, who does everything by the book. He's out there campaigning, emailing directors, making presentations, making a lot of noise. And then you have Dana. She has one quiet conversation. That's it. Guess who gets the project? Dana. Why? Because Sam's loud campaign created a ton of work and risk for the director. It forced a big public decision. Dana, on the other hand, offered a simple, low-risk private solution. The system and the people running it will almost always pick the path of least resistance. And this table, this just brilliantly illustrates the 3 dead-end roads for dealing with overload. First, you've got Ravi. He brings data, hard facts, but his manager just flips it and calls it a prioritization opportunity, basically blaming Ravi. Then there's Keisha, who just vents to her coworkers. What does she get? Nothing, except for maybe damaging her own reputation. And then there's Jordan, the silent workhorse who just absorbs all the extra work. He's actually in the worst position because he has just proven to the system that, more work can be done with the same number of people. He's taught the system that he can be exploited. So if playing the game hard and playing by the rules you can see doesn't actually work, what's the alternative? Well, it's not about just giving up. It's about changing your entire perspective. You stop being a piece on the chessboard and you start becoming an analyst of the game itself. The source brings up this amazing example of a colleague named Priya. On the surface, it looks like she does less of the work we're told is important. She skips the optional meetings, she never volunteers for those high-profile committees that are mostly just for show, and yet she's the one who's thriving. When a big project fails, the loud, visible people get burned. But Priya, who was quietly advising from the sidelines, she's untouched. See, Priya isn't just an employee. She's an analyst of the system. She understands that visibility creates risk. She knows that the real decisions, they're not made in that big committee meeting. They're made in the quiet conversations that happen after. By observing, understanding, and making really careful strategic moves, she navigates the system without being consumed by it. And that really brings us back to the core question here. How do you survive a job you can't leave? It's not by playing the visible game harder. It's by becoming an analyst of the board itself. By understanding the system's real logic, you can protect your energy, you can avoid a lot of unnecessary risks, and you can make strategic moves that actually matter. The goal isn't just to win, it's to endure. And sometimes the most powerful move is to simply sit back and observe.